No matter where you are, you want to hit some sort of fitness goal, whatever it is. Maybe you want to run a marathon, maybe you want to lose weight, maybe you want to get in shape, whatever that might be. The single best way to accomplish it is to make it public. I'm Michael Mogill, founder and CEO of CRISP, the nation's #1 law firm growth company. I've built my business through practice, not theory. CRISP started with just $500 to my name and has grown to over 8 figures in revenue over the last few years, earning a spot on the Inc. 500 list of the fastest growing private companies in America. Our approach has been to take everything we've learned about generating massive growth within our own organization and help the country's most ambitious and committed law firm owners do the same for theirs. In each episode of this podcast, I sit down with innovative market leaders from the legal industry and beyond to learn from those who thrive in the face of adversity, challenge the status quo, and define what it means to be a true game changer.
This is Jessica, Head of Coaching Strategy at CRISP, and today we're flipping the script for another special edition episode to get Michael's take on why putting your health first drives bigger wins in business, how to start your fitness journey and stay consistent no matter how busy life gets, and how Michael's personal transformation proves that bold commitments drive real results.
Either you're all in or you're not that committed to it and you're just not that serious. And that's okay. Maybe you just have to have a stronger why. For some people, it's like they want to be able to be around as their grandkids grow up. They want to be able to be active in their kids' lives. They don't want to get winded walking up the stairs. But find whatever your why is and whatever you can be committed to.
That's coming up on the Game Changing Attorney podcast. Hello and welcome back to another AMMA.
And we're back. We're back in the month of December. Can you believe it? You're in December already. Seems like it was just yesterday that you just entered 2024.
Yeah.
And now we're looking ahead to 2025, which sounds like a year from the future. I mean, it quite literally is. But if you said this year, 2025, you would think we'd have flying cars by now and hoverboards and all sorts of stuff like that.
Not yet.
But it's a great time for reflection. I see a lot of business leaders, towards the end of the year, I know you're closing things out, getting ready, hopefully excited for the new year. I feel business leaders should always be optimistic about the future because the alternative is not that great. And it's reflecting on the year and perhaps even thinking about, okay, just with everything that you've learned this year, sometimes write it down, like write down the lessons so that way you can actually learn the lessons and reflect on them and not make the same mistakes again in the new year. If you were to start the year over again, knowing what you know now, what advice would you give yourself or what would you tell yourself then? I thought about this the other day and I was thinking if I started 2024 over again, knowing what I know now, I would say 2 words: brace yourself.
I was going to say buckle up.
Yeah, that works too. Yeah, buckle up works too. Because you don't know what's ahead of you, what's going to happen. I mean, there's going to be things you can never predict. And the biggest thing you can lean on is your, adaptability, your resourcefulness, your resiliency. You're going to figure it out. If you don't, then, you're screwed.
Yeah.
Right. But ultimately it's just buckle up, brace yourself. You're probably going to have a whole lot more fun in 2025.
Yeah.
There's never a smooth straight line path to any place worth going. It's a good time for reflection. And I say this, I think I'm choosing my words carefully here just because I know people are dealing with all sorts of different challenges. Everyone's in a bad place. I know for some it's been a good year. For some it's been an absolutely horrible year. For some it's been a very difficult year personally, which I think is much more challenging than anything in the business. It's very, very difficult to be positive when you keep taking a bunch of hits. And I remember even at the summit last month asking everybody to say, hey, how's your year going? Everyone have has it been a difficult year? And some hands went up. And then I said, okay, what about this? Has it been one of the most difficult years of your life? And a lot more hands went up, than I was expecting.
Yeah.
So realize that you're not the only one who, if you are going through a difficult time, you're not the only one going through a difficult time. You can lean on other people. And, that's the power of community. But it's also recognizing the fact that, at least in my experience, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And there's always, there's always the lesson to take away. And if you never took away the lessons, if you never had the experiences, then you probably wouldn't be where you are today. And you certainly wouldn't be who you are today. You couldn't just when you started the business, automatically get to where you are today without having a few bumps and bruises along the way.
Right.
So that's what you got to lean on.
Yep.
But this is the AMMA. And if you tune in for the first time, you're like, what is this? Well, you guys submit questions. You text us at 404-531-7691 with your questions, and we answer them on the show. So if you send us a really great question, Jessica compiles them. We usually do them based on topics or themes to keep things organized, and we discuss them here. These are our opinions, our perspectives. You may agree, you may disagree. I don't care because you're listening to our podcast. And if you don't like it, go listen to another podcast. And speaking of which, we do other types of episodes on this podcast. We've got the traditional interview format. We bring in experts in the legal industry and beyond. Then we've got our encore editions. We bring back some of our most popular episodes. We're about to head into a new season of the podcast in 2025. I'm excited for the guests that we've got coming up. And as you may have noticed, we don't run any ads on the podcast. So no ads, no sponsors, nothing like that. We get offered it all the time, but that would mean that we'd have to choose our words carefully, right? Just like I was saying, I was choosing my words carefully earlier. Then I remembered we don't run ads on the podcast. You can say whatever you want, Mike. So that means the podcast is free. And we'll continue to keep it free. It's not free to produce, but we'll continue to keep it free so long as you help us spread the word, because this helps us get really great guests on the podcast. So if you get any sort of value from this podcast, if it make you laugh, make you cry, please go on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you're listening, and leave us a 5-star review. It helps the podcast get more reach. And that is the only fee for this free podcast. Jessica, what do we have this week on the MMA?
Here we go. So, question number 1. Sometimes I feel guilty prioritizing my health when there's so much to do and focus on in the business. How do you know when it's worth the trade-off?
When prioritizing your health is worth the trade-off? What's the alternative? Let's say you don't prioritize your health.
We've heard both sides.
Yeah, I mean, I've been on both. The challenge is that if your business doesn't succeed, you can always go and start another business or go work at another business. If you lose your health, well, then you die and it's game over. So when it comes to which one do you prioritize, I would generally lean on the one with the greater downside. So, and the other thing is just, you look at it as like a trade-off. I think that's really an interesting mindset, because it's essentially looking at it from the standpoint that if I focus on exercising, on my health, my fitness, it's going to take away from the time that I can spend working on my business, which will mean that the business isn't going to grow as much. We're not going to make as much revenue, profit, et cetera, that sort of thing. When in reality, I think that by prioritizing your health, you're able to obviously come into the business, be, in peak state, make better decisions, have mental clarity, and you're making better decisions that typically align to the business growing. I have yet to see somebody who's prioritizing their health and their fitness and their business suffers, right? Meaning that, you're doing one to fuel the other, and vice versa. Like personal growth fuels professional growth. Again, I would change kind of the lens through which you view that. At the same time, I don't think anyone's ever regretted a workout. So when you come out of the gym or whatever it is that you're doing, right? Yoga, walking, running, swimming, jujitsu, whatever you're doing.
Whatever your cup of tea is, yes.
That's helping you become a more fit and energized human being. And because business is ultimately a marathon, it's not a sprint. And your ability to have longevity in this, like you say that pun intended, how long you can continue at a certain level and a certain, at a high level is really going to dictate the progress that you make when it comes to growing your law firm. So I don't know. I can't necessarily save you from the guilt. That's something personal you may have to deal with. But I can say that if the goal is to grow your business, you're going to have a higher probability, I would say, of your firm growing when you are also healthy and fit than when you are the opposite of that.
Yeah.
And the longer you choose to ignore your health and fitness, it impacts so many things. It also comes down to what example do you set for your team, for your clients. It's going to affect your ability to focus. It's going to affect your energy. A task that would take you an hour when you're energized, when you're slogging along, it might take you 3 or 4 hours. You're just not going to be very efficient or very effective. And then before you know it, you're going to get in this like doom loop of working later, working harder, and you're not going to be tired, but you're not going to sleep because you have to work later and work harder. And then that's going to repeat and repeat and repeat. And then you're going to feel like you're working all the time. Then you're burnt out. And then before you know it, you're saying, oh, I'm doing everything that I can. I'm working as hard as I can. Why am I not seeing better results? And it's because the approach that you're taking is probably, it could be improved. I'll put it that way. So you have to be proactive versus reactive and really look at how you're spending your time and say, all right, if I was energized and if I was getting proper rest and sleep, and again, this isn't to say that there's not going to be times in the business for sure. You got to pull a late night.
Yeah.
You're going to have to sacrifice a few hours of sleep, of course, especially if you're just starting out or especially if you got ambitious growth goals. That just comes with it. But to do that on a consistent basis and not be eating well, not be sleeping well, not be exercising, you repeat that for a long enough period of time, and you're going to be taken off the field, not by your choice. Something's going to happen where you will not be able to continue. And then, in that moment, you're going to have to make a different type of decision. But don't wait for that pivotal moment. Be proactive now.
Absolutely. Could not agree more. Question number 2. Michael, your fitness journey has been inspiring. I've already ramped up my daily step count to 15,000 and might push for 20K soon. Can you share more about your fitness regimen? What do you do? Props to you, man.
Wow. Thank you. I don't know. Everyone's so curious about this.
This transformation.
This health routine. So The first thing I'll say is what works for me may not work for you, and works for somebody else may not work for you either. It really just comes down to what are your goals and needs. Like I can tell you, hey, I do the cold plunge and I sit in the sauna, but I don't think anyone ever became financially successful from jumping in a cold plunge or sitting in a sauna. I mean, it's like correlation, not causation. So I don't know that those are the things that lead to success. I mean, those are supplemental. If you look at the foundational aspects of any good health routine, of course, I'll share mine. Don't worry. Like I'm not going to like bury the lead. Okay, first it is health. So health, rest. So that is sleep, just in terms of like sleep quality, sleep consistency, going to bed, waking up at the same time. For me, it's been really helpful to carry on, even through the weekends. Same time I wake up, same time I go to bed. So I wake up at 5 a.m., every morning, including Saturday and Sunday. It's actually easier to carry on. Your body just gets into a circadian rhythm and you're energized. And then going to bed around like 9:30. Then, if you get the rest part right, then there's the nourishment, which is, the food that you're consuming. And again, this is different for different people. I find that a Mediterranean diet works for me. It's not like we cut out certain foods, don't really drink, don't eat, a whole lot of like sugar and that sort of thing. It's mostly like high protein, usually a gram of protein per pound body weight, every day. And then I don't necessarily go like low carb or low fat. I don't do any like fad diets. Just eat like clean, healthy foods like chicken breasts and like salmon and like steak and broccoli and, sweet potatoes, that sort of stuff, right? Generally, the more processed it is, probably the less healthy it is for you. So like whole foods, fruits, that sort of thing. Third component. So you've got like the rest, you've got the nourishment, and then the third one's movement. So movement can be, whether it's like exercise in terms of like weight training, it could be yoga, it could be running, walking, just anything like that gets you moving around. And there's a lot of health benefits in terms of like resistance training, weight training, just in terms of having stronger bones, because the thing is you get older, a lot of researchers find is that the goal is to just not injure yourself in some way. So like breaking a hip, breaking a leg, having a fall, something like that, that's really what you're trying to avoid. And then your ability to do things that are like functional fitness that you would consider like, carrying your kids up the stairs and like being able to like squat and being able to like move boxes and just things that you do in the day to day. So those are really the three areas to focus on. Now for me, I mean, I covered a lot of it, but it's, wake up in the morning, I get my steps in, playing video games, a little first person shooter action, and I'll get, anywhere from in the morning, sometimes 15, 20,000 steps. That's a lot. I would say that prior to maybe 2 years ago, I was averaging around 3,000 steps a day. I wasn't very mobile, but getting like a standing desk at the office has helped. Walking in the mornings has helped. Just from a movement standpoint, you don't really do that to lose weight or burn calories. I mean, when you really think about it, like how many calories. Yesterday, for example, I walked 18 miles, and that comes out to, I don't know, maybe a little over 1,000 calories, right? If that's even accurate, right? Because a lot of these calorie trackers, the machines and fitness trackers aren't very accurate. But even so, you have like one burger cancels out, 18 miles of walking. So I wouldn't do it for the necessarily like the caloric benefits of like just essentially losing weight, but you do it for the cardio aspects of it, like the cardiovascular aspects of it, things that like just improve your health overall and your fitness. So like VO2 max, that sort of thing. So I get the walking in, then I'll do some weight training. So, and for me, I keep it simple. So I'll do squats, deadlifts, compound lifts, kettlebells, bench press, like just things with like dumbbells, kettlebells, bands, that sort of thing. Nothing crazy. I'm not like maxing out any weight or anything like that. I mean, we have a little gym in the house, so it's just me down there. What do I say? Is I'm the biggest dude in the gym because I'm the only guy that goes down there.
Yeah.
So there's that. And then outside of that, it's like just healthy foods, right, throughout the day. So I make sure I get enough protein. That's kind of my number one focus from a nutrition standpoint of like 1 gram per pound body weight. And whether that comes from eating things like chicken breasts or whether that comes sometimes you like supplement with like a shake. Like the Fairlife shakes for me, I love them. They're great. Sometimes you're eating like, like beef jerky, something like that. If you're traveling, just to be able to maintain that consistency. I don't overthink it. I track everything. We use an app called MyFitnessPal, and it's free. I think there's like a paid version of it too. It lets you track everything. And this for me was a game changer because I remember we had Marcus Filly on the podcast a while back, and we were talking about this, and he's kind of the pioneer of like functional fitness, or functional bodybuilding. Right. So this idea that instead of just like, focusing on working out so you can, look great, it's also, so it's functional for you, that you have like mobility, it helps you in your day to day, that you're doing this from a longevity standpoint. And, he asked me, he's like, well, do you track metrics in your business? And I'm like, absolutely. We have metrics, we have dashboards. And he's like, well, why don't you do that for your health as well? And I'm like, light bulb, right? So that's what MyFitnessPal is. And you start to log your meals. And someone's like, oh, that sounds burdensome. Okay, well, alternatively, you could just put random food in your mouth and hope that the numbers add up at the end of the day, and not have any plan and not have any data. Similar to the trackers, I used to wear a Whoop. I had one for, I think, like 3 years. I started to get really in a good groove, and now we just rely on the 8 sleep.
Yeah.
So it gives us like sleep data. You can get HRV in there. You can figure out how much sleep you're getting from like REM sleep, deep sleep, etc. It's fantastic. I love the 8 sleep. So you're getting data, just in terms of like your recovery, how much you're sleeping. And then what I would recommend to somebody if they're just starting out is just go get a blood test done. Like you can go to, there's a website, what's one, like Inside Tracker. We're not affiliated with them in any way. I think it's a couple $100. They'll either bring like a phlebotomist to you, or you can go to like a lab core or something like that. You can just get your blood labs done, and you can get a lot of really great insight overall as to like where your levels are. So they can be kind of like a baseline for where you should work off things. Like for me, I remember when I first did my first blood test. Now we do them quarterly, but my levels were all out of whack. It was bad, like real bad. Like I'm telling you to the point. I mean, you remember this?
Yeah.
Like it was like red alert. C-reactive protein was out of control. I had friends of mine that were in the 30s and 40s and 50s, they were having heart attacks, and we were like dropping off one after the next. And I'm like, look, something's got to change.
Yeah.
Because we were all these entrepreneurs working crazy hours for years and years and years, and weren't taking care of our health. And yeah, we'd hit the gym, but we weren't watching what food we were putting in our bodies. And we weren't, focusing at all on like sleep or rest or recovery. Everyone was so proud of like who could get the least amount of sleep and, can get the most amount of work done. But you do that for years and years and years. In my case, it was over a decade, and it adds up. And that for me was the first wake-up call of getting that, that blood test done. That's what I would recommend. So like Inside Tracker's one. There's others online. I'm sure you can search for this stuff. It's fairly inexpensive, but that can give you a good idea. There's no secret to it. Like there's not like, oh, if I do red light therapy, is it going to help? If I do a cold plunge, maybe it'll help you a bit in recovery. But if you're not doing the fundamentals from a standpoint of rest in terms of like consistent sleep schedule, if you're putting the right foods into your body, if you're not exercising on a consistent basis, everything else is not going to matter at all. It's not like, well, should I take creatine, or should I take, these protein shakes, or should I take these amino acids? I mean, I don't know. Like maybe if you're doing everything else, that's why they call them supplements. Right. It goes on top. But you're talking about like incremental improvement versus an exponential improvement by focusing on rest, nourishment, exercise. And you're like, oh man, he's telling me all the things I already know. Well, yeah, I am.
Right.
Now you just got to go do it. Everybody knows. Everybody knows they're supposed to eat healthy. Everybody knows they're supposed to like get the right amount of sleep. Everyone knows they're supposed to exercise, but most people don't do it. So you can be an outlier. So rather than chasing some sort of fad diet or something like that, I mean, again, there's a lot of really cool things you can do in the longevity world, but that stuff is just like, you're talking like a 0.5%, maybe like a 1% incremental improvement once you're doing everything else.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't touch any of that stuff. There's a lot of cool stuff out there, but
the basics.
Get the basics right first. Get the foundation right. Get in a good habit. Get in a good routine. Be doing that stuff consistently, and then once you've like maxed all that out, it's been a year, you've been doing things consistently nonstop, then you can start looking at cold plunges. And then I don't even think there's some physical benefit to it, but I think it's more of a mental benefit of doing hard things. But you can, listen, man, you don't even have to buy a cold plunge. Just take cold showers. Start now. You can start today. If you have a shower, just jump in, go cold right out of the gate.
There's one place to
cold
start.
Plunge every morning.
Okay, and question number 3. I'm ready to make the commitment to go all in on my health, but it feels overwhelming. What's the best way to get started when everything seems like a lot?
I wish I had some magic answer to this question. Most people, I'll give you the opposite side of it. Most people don't get started because they need conditions to be perfect, or they are in this stage of like analysis paralysis. In fact, smart people are really, really good at this. Smart people are so amazing of coming up with the best excuses that they can convince themselves to not do the thing that they're supposed to do. In this case, maybe the person asking this question feels like, I really shouldn't jump into this until I know exactly what I'm supposed to do. And there's just so much information out there. It's so overwhelming. So what happens is months go by, then years go by, and there's only going to be more information. I mean, all the information's out there. YouTube is free. Like there's so many resources, and there's only going to be more and more information overload that you're never going to do this stuff. And then you're thinking, well, who should I listen to? There's a ton of great people to listen to. I mean, there's a ton of great health podcasts. There's a ton of great health resources out there. And earlier I just talked about the fundamentals. So the answer to this is, how do you get started? You just got to go. You just got to get started. In fact, you have to really look at it from the standpoint of, how do I eliminate all the things that could prevent me from getting this done? And the best way we found, and this goes for the business and personal, so someone's listening along to this and they're like, man, I don't care. I already got a 6-pack. Tell me how to grow my law firm, right? Well, you could apply this next thing I'm about to share with you to your law firm, and it works in your life as well. It works universally. Business, professional, it doesn't matter. The best way to improve anything is, number one, start measuring it. So start tracking it. So in the business, we call it KPIs, like key performance indicators. And you could also have these personally as well. So KPIs in terms of like personal could be, okay, the foods that you eat and the meals that you consume. So MyFitnessPal is a great tracker for that, just as an example. There's other ones out there. You can also track in terms of your weight every single day. You can also track your body fat percentage. Go out there and get, a DEXA scan, for example, if you want to be accurate. And it's less about the individual number on any given day. It doesn't matter if it's high, low, whatever. And it's just more so how's that number changing over time. If you start paying attention to it, like if you start looking at your bank account every single day, that number will improve, okay? Just because you're focusing on it. But if you don't know how much money is in your bank account and months go by, chances are the next time you look at it, it's not going to be as much money as you hope to be there. So first, it's just starting to measure it. So just take a baseline of everything. And then the second thing to really improve this exponentially is you got to make it public. No matter where you are, you want to hit some sort of fitness goal, whatever it is. Maybe you want to run a marathon, maybe you want to lose weight, maybe you want to get in shape, whatever that might be. The single best way to accomplish it is to make it public. If you texted all your friends right now, literally today, and say, hey guys, I'm embarking on this health journey, and 1 year from today, I'm going to send you all a picture with my shirt off, and I want you guys to hold me accountable if there's any reason that I don't do this. And they'll all respond with, great, sounds good, let's see the before photo, right? Or take it up a notch, do what I did. Do that with all your clients. I know that might be a little weird for some of you, but I think this was, last year's conference. I had to put up a picture of myself because I was telling people I was going through this health journey, which I started in January that year. The conference is going to be in November, right? In front of thousands of people with my shirt off, okay? Now, the before photo did not look great. Every day when I woke up and I felt like not doing what I was supposed to do, not exercising or not eating the foods that I knew I was supposed to eat. Now, it's become a habit, right? It's like, it's easy. Early on, there was always like, man, I don't feel like working out today. Or, you know what, it's been a long day. I don't want to go right to bed. I want to stay up a little bit, or I want to sleep in a little bit. So sleep wasn't right. Like every time I thought about that, I'm like, you know what? In November this year, you're going to have to post a picture of yourself in front of everybody. And that kept me going. It's no different than anything you want to achieve. It's like pick a date and start selling tickets. It's kind of the expression. So make it public and tell the world, message your friends. And if you're resistant to this, if you're reluctant to do this, well, maybe you're half-hearted in your commitment. Because if you were 100% without a shadow of a doubt, like you can't say I'm like half pregnant. You cannot be half committed. You can't say I'm 99% of the way there. It's either binary, like 0 or 1. Either you're all in or you're not that committed to it and you're just not that serious. And that's okay. Like maybe you just have to have a stronger why. For some people, it's like they want to be able to be around when, as their grandkids grow up, they want to be able to be active in their kids' lives. They want to, they don't want to get winded walking up the stairs. They want to be healthy. They want to exist for a long time. That for them is a big driver. For other people, it could just be like, look, I want to look good with my shirt off. I want to be able to go on vacation and look good. I want to feel confident, in terms of like how I look. And there's nothing wrong with that either. Just, again, it just depends on what's driving you. But find, whatever your why is and whatever you can be committed to. Look, you can get as ambitious as you want. And I promise you whatever target or goal that you set, you should be excited about it. So if you're saying, hey, if you're trying to, I see a lot of people start to downplay things because then when they're about to make something public, they're going to say, you know what, let me not reach as high as what I really want. So they're going to say, okay, I know I'm supposed to lose 50 pounds, but what if I just tell them I'm going to lose 20 pounds? So then I can overshoot and surprise everyone. You're going to probably be less likely to lose the 20 than you would have been the 50 because you're not excited about it. It should be something that is really transformational for you. Okay, so if you're saying, hey, and it doesn't matter how old you are, I've known 50-year-olds, 60-year-olds with six packs that you can do it if it's what you want, right? And then you'll say, well, maybe it's not what I want, because then you start, again, smart people start talking themselves out of things. They're saying, well, what does it matter, right? Who cares if I have a six-pack or not? Who cares? That's not really important. I just want to be healthy, right? They're going to say, I just want to be fit. It doesn't matter if I have my shirt off. Most of the year, I have my shirt on anyway, right? And my wife loves me, my kids love me, and, I've achieved this financial success, and they start talking themselves out of what they really want. Just be honest with yourself. Set an ambitious goal. I remember in that year, so what was it, 2023, I read some statistic. This is stupid, but I read the statistic that showed that there are more adults who are millionaires in America than adults who have six packs. And I was like, wow. So that you're telling me it is more rare for an adult over the age of 30 and 40 to have a six pack than to be a millionaire. And imagine you could be as uncommon as having both. So I'm like, okay, let's make it happen. Again, I think in recap, you got to have a powerful why. You got to start tracking things, get the data, right? So just will know where you are, and that number will start to improve. And then if you're serious, make it public. Make it public. You could say, hey, you know what? For every pound that I lose, I'm going to donate to this charity that's important to me. Could be whatever it is that you want. Or you can just say, hey guys, give me a hard time if you're not getting photos from me. Maybe you got to share progress updates every quarter to keep yourself on track, maybe every single month. That's the way you get started. You don't wait to say, okay, I got to find the perfect health coach.
Right.
And then I have to get, exactly what I'm supposed to eat. And then I need to know exactly what I'm supposed to do in the gym. That's going to come the minute you commit yourself to something. You're going to figure it out because now you will have to figure it out. Versus before, you're kind of half-hearted. You kind of, maybe I'm in, maybe I'm out. You're kind of like one toe in, one toe out. Number one, commit.
Yeah.
Commit to the end goal and make it public. And then before you know it, you're going to figure out what to eat. And you're going to figure out what exercise to do. And you're going to start learning about this stuff because now you have to win. It's no different than in business. It's like, well, I'm not going to jump in to start a law firm until I know exactly what I'm supposed to do in all aspects to grow the law firm. You didn't do that.
No.
You started the law firm, and then you figured it out along the way. Sometimes you got to build the plane on the way down, but the biggest thing is get started, get going. Time's of the essence. Can you imagine being in the same place a year from now? Hopefully not. So just go. Don't say, I'm going to go January 1st. Don't say, I'm going to get started next month. Start now.
Yep.
And maybe, if I give you some grace, start tomorrow morning. But even that feels late. You could do something today. You can go on a walk for 10 minutes today.
Yeah.
You could eat something healthy today. You don't have to be perfect. Sometimes, a 15-minute workout is better than nothing.
All right. Well, there's the takeaway. Go get started.
All right. We'll see you next time.
You've been listening to the Game Changing Attorney podcast with Michael Mogill. If you found this episode valuable, here are 3 free ways that we can help you grow your law firm. Number 1, download the first chapter of Michael's book absolutely free at gamechangingattorney.com. Number 2, you can shoot Michael a text at 404-531-7691 and ask him any question you'd like. You might just hear the answer on the next episode. And finally, number 3, if you can leave this podcast a 5-star review, it will help us gain access to more influential thought leaders and bring their lessons learned here to you. For more information on this episode, see the show notes in your podcast app or visit legalpodcast.com.